Ms. Waters of California, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Professor Hamilton, during the pandemic, there was a lot of bipartisan support for small businesses. We had the Paycheck Protection Program that made sure that community financial institutions like the CDFIs and MDIs received an allocation. Small businesses were able to benefit. But since then, we've seen Trump and Republicans attack a number of programs and safeguards that help small businesses. For example, for decades, CDFI fund has received bipartisan support for all of the good ways it has supported CDFIs across the country, including in urban and rural communities. CDFIs played an important role in providing PPP loans to small businesses, especially after the biggest banks turned them down. But now Trump wants to close down the CDFI. We have to fight. We had to fight him on this. Professor Hamilton, won't that hurt small businesses trying to access capital and affordable loans to expand their businesses?
Absolutely, Ranking Member. It will not offer precision by which we need to ensure that we have economic inclusion for especially minority businesses that traditionally have not been included in the full prosperity of the American economy. So these programs have relationships, they have capabilities of steering finance in a way to promote economic inclusion, which should be consistent with achieving that American dream in a melting pot.
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, just speaking about the PPP program, the big banks basically took care of their concierge clients, used up all the money in the beginning, and we had to come back, Nydia Velasquez, Nancy Pelosi, and even Mnuchin, to come up with a huge allocation to get to minority-owned banks and also for small businesses. They come here and they talk about small business, and what they try to do is get us believing that they're here representing small business. But in essence, what they're doing is bringing the same old Republican arguments about rent control and other kinds of things, getting away from what we're trying to do for small businesses. Professor Hamilton, going back to former President Nixon, the Minority Business Development Agency, that is the MBDA, has helped small businesses owned by people of color and were ignored by the traditional financial system. These entrepreneurs could go to the MBDA and get legal and technical advice on how to run their businesses or access loans and capital to operate. If Trump closes MBDA, won't it be harder for small businesses to access affordable credit?
Yes, the program was designed with a purpose in mind, and we have not completely fulfilled that purpose. So now is not the time to turn away from it. Now is the time to amplify it. And also, if we go back to the point that you made with regards to the PPP program, imagine the counterfactual if we didn't have it in place. Imagine how many workers would have lost their job in the midst of a pandemic if this federal government didn't ensure that if employers were to keep their workers employed, that they would receive forgivable loans. And then the point you raised, we want to make sure we have an inclusive economy, so to pivot in the midst of that allocation to go to CDFIs to make sure that businesses that might not have been as traditionally banked with the larger banks would also be able to keep their workers employed was what was good for America.
Thank you so very much. Just quickly, Trump and Republicans also want to stop the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau from collecting data on small business lending. Section 1071 of Dodd-Frank, which I and Small Business Committee Ranking Member Velasquez led in drafting, requires banks to collect this small business loan data. It was finally implemented by the CFPB under former Director Chopra's leadership. But Trump, CFPB, is seeking to delay and narrow this rule. As an economist, how does the lack of transparency and data on who gets small business loans and what it rates allow discrimination to persist?
Information is power. And then also hidden information allows for discrimination, allows for things to be not transparent so that we can address it. And indeed, the CFPB We should also consider the origins of that great agency that we have with our government. It came about as a result of recognitions of a financial collapse.
Thank you, Professor. Gentlewoman's time has expired. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.